What is up for my dogs? I hope everyone is having a great day. If it's your first time listening to us, we are a podcast where we help men become the best versions of themselves and to highlight that we cannot do it alone. Today, we have a great episode ahead of you.
Today we have special guests Brian and Austin Goddard. They are an awesome father-son duo. They're in business together. They talk about their relationship and growth in their relationship over the years and the importance of mentorship in their lives and relationships with other guys, but also the importance of their relationship with each other. Brian talks a little bit about what retirement's been like for him. It's a really great episode, so we hope you enjoy. All right, welcome to the For My Dawgs podcast. As always, got my dog Johnny here. How you doing, Johnny?
Cheers, everyone. How we doing?
Yep, hope everyone's having a great week. And then we have two very special guests with us on this episode that I have the privilege of knowing. So we have Brian and Austin Goddard, just a incredible father-son duo. Yeah, gotta hype you guys up, man. And you guys just have the coolest setup background of anybody we've had on the pod so far. So,
well, thank you.
That's pretty awesome. Which we'll have to talk about the bikes and motorcycling as one of the hobbies at some point in the podcast. But would you guys just take a brief moment and just kind of introduce yourselves? Brian, if you'd start, and then Austin, you can take it from there.
Sure. Obviously, I'm Brian. I am one of 5 children. My parents were divorced. Divorced whenever I was 3 years old. I'm the middle of 5 kids, and a mother that worked in a bakery. So, needless to say, growing up, I had a very challenging childhood in reference to having to work at a very early age. And I share that front part there because I believe that really had a major factor of shaping who I am and what I currently do. Mm-hmm. So, growing up, was fortunate enough to go to schools that were very good. I went to Catholic grade school, high school. Ended up with a 4-year ROTC scholarship, went off to the college. I'm an electrical engineer by schooling. Ended up in the military, active duty in the first Gulf War. Was married during that time and had our first child right before the war. And then Austin was one of the first kids after the first Gulf War. So he's one of the first Gulf War babies. So once again, going back to that work thing, reason why I bring that up was that not having a father in my life and having to work like I had to, as a young man, my desire and my understanding of what I wanted to be able to have as a husband and as a father was to be able to have my kids have their mother available to them. So with that, I think starting out, I had the financial aspect of fatherhood and being a husband nailed down. In the military, was doing well, ended up deciding to take an early out, had an opportunity to do that, enter corporate America, and the same success that I had in the military, I was quickly realizing that same success in corporate America. At the cost of not being as attentive as I would have wanted to be with my kids. I was basically a weekend dad. I spent most of my time traveling and would be home on the weekend. And, the kids referred to me at that point, I'm the fun guy. And, mom was the one that was doing the core disciplining, the core training and stuff. So during that particular stint, I got to the point where I was no longer flying across the country. I was having to travel an hour and a half each way to work. And during that particular time, had a lot of time to think about what I was wanting to do. And came to the conclusion that, I did not want to, although I was providing well, I've got that part nailed. I really wanted to address other areas of fatherhood, and being a husband. My wife, there was other areas that I wasn't fulfilling properly that needed to be fulfilled. So ended up taking a 6-month break and to kind of figure out what I needed to do. And I figured after 6 months, I'd be able to, I kind of envisioned that what I really needed to do was to go get a job in corporate America again, just hunker down in a cubicle, try to work 8 to 5 and come home. Well, after the 6 months of the break, trying to figure out what I was going to do, I ended up actually, people had contacted me and I had replaced my income by doing consulting. And at that particular time, it was in IT. So the 6 months came and went. My wife said, you're not going to be happy in that corporate job. Just go ahead and start a business, but promise that you're not going to go off the rails again. She knew my character. She knew I wasn't going to work any less. And she figured if I was going to continue to do this, I need to go ahead and do it for myself. So with that, I believe Austin and I talked about that earlier today. I think he was 8 years old.
Austin. I don't tell a lot of people they started a business in the bedroom, but
yeah. So
I had the only spare desk in the house. So.
He had a spare desk, and one of my first clients, I had to put a server. So at 8 years old, he had a server humming in his bedroom for 3 or 4 months before I was able to move that into a data center. But so anyway, I took Austin at 8 years old, and I went down and we started the company. And
back then they hadn't digitized the registry yet, so there was literally no joke, a book this tall that you had to flip through to see was Goddard Technical Services, already registered as a company. So.
Oh wow! So there wasn't. You couldn't just go search name.
You couldn't get on LegalZoom. You couldn't get on GoDaddy.
Wow.
You had to actually, and they didn't staff somebody to go do that for you. You had to go down and
look through the log yourself,
and make sure.
Wow.
Services is not registered. The DBA GTech Serve is not registered. Let's snag those and pay the fine to get those registered. So, but it was a good experience.
So that gets me 25 years ago. The company's 25 years old now. So, but when I started that company, the intent was, I loved IT and I wanted to create an environment where others that enjoyed IT were able to come into this particular space, and through the tool sets that were available, how much could we make IT an 8 to 5 job? And, knowing that there'd be those cycles where, patching and security updates and stuff like that were going to be somewhat cumbersome. But to create a system of automation and leverage the technology, but really the principle behind it was that how can I create a company that I was passionate about, in the industry I was passionate about, but tone down that work aspect where I still had time with my kids, and then to offer that same type of vision to the individuals that worked for the company. So I'll fast forward 25 years, so Austin has an opportunity to do that. So where are we today? I've been in a process of transferring ownership over to Austin. So Austin currently is he owns 20% of the company today. And over the next few years, he'll have close to 50% ownership of the company. So I'm providing guidance, direction, and Austin's running the show. And, the journey, there's a lot in between all of that. But I'll let Austin pick it up from here.
Well, I'll be brief. Austin Goddard, I have 3 sisters, so one of 4. I'm the second oldest. And to kind of play off of what Brian said earlier, he wanted to have my mother be available to us, be at home. So she actually homeschooled us until my sophomore year of high school. And that afforded us a lot of opportunities that I would say, wouldn't have been able to take advantage of. I was able to travel with my grandparents. Son was able to travel with Brian as he was starting the business and doing laying the groundwork of the company. I was able to tag along as one side of it as his gopher, right? So he was on job sites, so running cables and setting up computers. But actually, the motorcycles behind us, it reminds me of he had a different motorcycle at the time. But we put probably 2,800 miles on in just a few weeks, all through the mountains of Tennessee, going and consolidating some businesses. What it must have been.
Today, it would be a little weird him riding on the back of a motorcycle with me.
Maybe just a little bit.
On the back of my dad's motorcycle, so it was very clear this is 2 men on the back of this motorcycle. But once I hit above 5 foot tall, we stopped doing that. Yeah. But no, so just had my first son in December. So me and my wife, we've been married for going on 9 years now, and just brought our first child into the world.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way. I know I've already told you, but congrats.
Yeah, no. Just one thing with Parenthood, you just give up on wearing clean clothes. You can. I was walking out of the house and put on this sweatshirt, and I had to wipe stuff off my shoulder, and it's just that's the one thing about Parenthood that just goes right out the window is you can do as much laundry as you want. As soon as you put on a fresh clean T-shirt, you can kiss that thing goodbye. It's either from eating with your left hand because you got the baby in your dominant hand, or you're holding the kid, and before you know it, something's coming out of one end of it that's ruining your clothes. So, yeah. But no, it's been a fun journey, and following and continuing the tradition of having my wife right now. Thankfully, we are in a position where she's able to stay home with August and be available for him. So not that that's in today's world, it's very challenging to have a single income, but that's something that we're working on, and hopefully we'll be able to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But at least until he's starting school. But that's I've been with G-Tech right out of high school officially. My official start date is January 15th, 2010. So, starting my 15th year with the company just last month. And
awesome.
Being 33, being with the same company for 15 years is also a pretty rare thing. And
before we move on, I did neglect to mention another aspect, something that Austin and I share in common, along with another one of my children. But I didn't mention about my wife, Regina. I met her while I was in high school, or the summer of her senior year. And so we've been together now we've known each other for over 40, and I guess it's 37 years of marriage.
That's awesome.
So I want that message to go out that true love does exist, and that, most people think that whole thing is gone. And to top that, I have Austin, who met his bride younger than that, and my oldest daughter, they met, 3 years younger than what my wife and I were. And
wow.
all both of these couples have outstanding marriages and stuff. So that there's hope. I just mentioned that there's still hope out there, that there is a true love out there for you guys.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as a former student pastor, it was, high school relationships were more of a burden and frustration than they were like a hopeful thing. So that is encouraging to hear.
Right.
Yeah, and as a middle school teacher right now, I highly discourage relationships. so maybe I should stop.
Well, you should stop. You should.
Yes. Now, when
there's testimony here. I mean, we got
there is.
All 4 of my children are married, very, very happy marriages, and but 2 of them, they met before my wife and I met. So
that's awesome. Yeah. The boyfriend and girlfriends in my middle school, you don't talk to each other during the day. You text afterwards, but it's not cool to talk to your boyfriend or girlfriend during the day. So I was like, that's just weird to me. So I would assume that yours was different than that. I assume that you would talk.
That was a little bit. We didn't have cell phones back then.
that is a big factor. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm sure things were a lot more simple.
That's right.
Yeah. But thank you for the story. Like, I've not met you in person, but that little short window to your life is super incredible. However, I will say, in order to truly know a person, you need to know what kind of bourbon they like. And so I would like to ask you, for each of you, like, what's your top 3 bourbon? It can be like your favorite bourbon or just your steady go-to bourbon.
Well, I thought you might ask me that question. So,
we got it ready. I love it.
Do you have some spotlights here, or do we need to cover the labels of this?
Oh my gosh, I love this.
But currently I've been enjoying this 10-year McKenna Hendrick, and it is proof-wise, you're talking 100 proof there. So I tend to like my bourbons a little hot.
Me too.
And if you're familiar with bourbon, you'll know that if you sip it correctly, how to get all those additional notes. But this one here has been currently one of my favorites. Another one, which this is going to be even hotter. This is 124 proof.
Come on.
Larceny, in which I've been enjoying this one also. This
clearly,
So Larceny and McKenna have really been, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, that's kind of been the staple. And then I just figured I'd bring the Old Faithful one out there, for anybody's palate.
Good Faithful.
It's a little bit lower proof there, but just smooth, all the way around smooth. So there's 3 of them.
I'm gonna be honest.
He has a different story about this.
Whiskey and put me in a coma. Just ever since then, it's really only been maybe the last year that I've been able to even tolerate the smell of whiskey.
Oh,
man.
So
he's coming around though, guys. He's coming around.
I got introduced to some very low proof Irish varieties whenever I took a trip with my brother-in-law out to Dublin last year, and we hit up a couple whiskey bars and distilleries, and was able to kind of turn the palate back on. But I'm a big gin guy. I really like gins.
That's right. Yeah. I remember you saying you're a gin guy now.
Yeah.
So what would be like your go-to gin?
Oh man, Hendrick's is my go-to. Hendrick's gin is my go-to, but I like pretty much anything that even like the old Seagrams and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
It smells of juniper berries.
Every time I see gin, out somewhere or someone's drinking gin, I just think of Peaky Blinders. I don't know if y'all watch that show.
Great show.
They start making it towards the end.
I don't know. They say gin makes you fight. Growing up with 3 sisters, I always had to, keep my emotions in check. So I wasn't allowed to ever fight with my sisters. So I don't know. I think it just gets gets my creative juices going for sure.
Nice.
Right on.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, you said that you like Irish whiskey. Some Irish whiskey in your coffee hits a spot.
Okay,
That's a good one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of good
I thought I
things.
was just gonna.
Go ahead.
I just thought I was going to never be able to drink whiskey or bourbon again, but you know, thankfully, maybe one or two cigars kind of burn the taste buds off, and
nice.
So I can have a sip or two.
That's a good combo. A whiskey and cigars, great
Yeah.
combo.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot of good things about that McKenna Henry. I've never had it, but I've heard a lot.
But you need to come
love
on over. I'll give you a pour.
Is that a double invite for me too?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I'll let you pick 3 off of my shelf, and we'll do a nice bourbon tasting.
Oh,
Nice.
yes. I'm down 100%.
That's awesome. Great question,
You'll have
Johnny.
a selection of over 60.
Oh, man. I might bring a sleeping bag over.
During COVID, Brian got into bourbon, so he would just hit the road and go up onto the bourbon trail. I think he did that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but
Nice.
I also have a buyer now. You know, my son-in-law also did this with me. My oldest daughter's husband, Will.
Mm-hmm.
So he's my procurer, if I'm saying that correctly. He'll call me, hey, they got this, they got that. So he keeps me pretty well stocked.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
a shout out to Will. Thank you, buddy.
There you go. We got a shout.
Yeah. That's
Everyone
awesome.
needs a Will in their life.
That's right.
Everyone needs
Right.
a Willie J.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will is a cool guy. Haley, my wife Haley used to babysit for
Yeah.
them back in Raleigh. So
Okay. Connections. Wow.
yeah.
It's a small world.
It is a small world. Yeah. And I'll just let the audience know, that's my connection to you guys is, Brian, your daughter, Emily, and Austin, your sister, was Haley's roommate in college. And so, that's how I got the privilege of meeting and getting to know you guys. So super thankful for that. But yeah, Brian, you mentioned, when you were introducing yourself, that you served in the military and you're a veteran. So first, we just want to say thank you so much for your service. Can't imagine, the lessons you learned and just how that formed and shaped you as a man, during your time there. But we appreciate you so much for being willing to do that.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't mind sharing like that experience, what do you feel like your time in the military has taught you, and how do you think that translated into your starting your own business, but also just life in general?
Once again, to be flat out and honest, whenever I basically was looking for a way to go to college. I had several football scholarships, and I had that ROTC scholarship. And when presented with the ROTC scholarship, it was, hey, dude, don't worry. You take this. You serve 8 years in the reserves. You're never going to go active duty, So, initially, I share that just to say initially, my thought was that, hey, I won't have to work through college. That's paid for. They're going to give me a stipend to live off of. And I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing. I don't have to go beat myself up on the football field, and I'll go do my engineering job. And, I'll just go be that weekend warrior, and it was going to be over with. So what ended up happening.
Well, she
Yeah. So, graduated college, and it was time to go to officers' basic school. And just as I was graduating officers' basic, the first Gulf War kicked up. And they, for those that may not know, basically you get to at least put a request in whether or not you want active duty or if you want reserve duty. So at the school that I went to, there were 22 full 4-year scholarship cadets there. Half of us were business majors, the other half were engineers. So when we all filled out our request, all of us engineers said we wanted reserve duty And the other half said the business majors said they wanted active duty. The request came back. They took all of us engineers active duty and put all of the business majors in reserve duty. So first disappointment right there was like, shoot, that wasn't what I was expecting. So anyway, but it ended up being a tremendous blessing. So the Lord has things are done for a reason. So I go to officers basic school, do very well there. Towards the end of that, I had original orders to go to Germany. They ended up pulling those orders on me, and they held me there as a executive officer for a training company in the interim, and then shortly afterwards ended up sending me over individually and attached me to the 18th Airborne Corps to serve in the first Gulf War. I come back from that, and we produced this young man here. So, but that stint over there, I guess there's parts of that I still don't talk about. But the one part of that I would share, and it's relevant today because some of the things that Pete has said. As a young lieutenant over there, and the places where I was at. I was a Signal Corps officer, by the way, so that's support, and I was supporting the 82nd Airborne and the 24th Infantry Division. We had all their comms that were in there, and basically we were trafficking enemy prisoner of war information, and we needed to make sure that all that equipment was up and running. Also, aerial reconnaissance that was taking place where I was not briefing Schwarzkopf, but was in those briefings with Schwarzkopf whenever that information was coming through, which was very impressionable as a young man. The tragedies of war are horrible.
Take your time.
Being in combat situations and having women there is a whole nother dimension. So I like the direction that this country's going right now. I served with women. I had women commanders. Not a problem with that. That's not an issue. But whenever you're on the front line, it complicates things. So I'm going to move on from that. Let's ask me another question, get me redirected.
All right, I got you on here.
Yeah. Having a company commander as a father was traveling all over the place. Brian, growing up, still did have I'll say militaristic disciplinary streak.
We had PT.
Wow.
Run his finger across the dresser. Oh, there's too much dust on this young man. You need to get. you gotta.
Oh, wow.
So he definitely had his brought his military career into I would say some of your parenting.
And that's good or bad. It may have been good for my son. I think it didn't go too well with my daughters, or at least some certain aspects of it. We're still trying to understand what I was actually trying to communicate and what they interpreted as. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
How it translated into business is, I think it served him, working under him very well. It's he delineation of powers. Everybody knows their lane and knows their job and gets their job done. And SOPs, and especially the IT field, it's not documented, doesn't happen, and harping those SOPs.
Yeah, and just for our listeners, SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. Yeah.
And then in addition to that, with Brian's military career, it opened the avenue for me coming into the industry that I was able to pursue several. We were able to pursue several contracts, work together very closely in the DoD space, and got to travel and see and meet with people that at a very young age, was very formative that we were, I guess, blessed to be able to be invited into some of these rooms, and that, as a 17, 18-year-old kid had no business being in, but for some reason we were able to, be invited to go JSOC and FBI and
Wow.
Department of Defense and military contractors, and just go, these people that work in these communications fields for the government was very interesting, and has definitely shaped who I am professionally, and it's been the military has been good. And I'd say that everybody remembers where they were at 9/11. I remember Brian coming home. You were just a couple years out of the military, and they were recruiting him hard again to reactivate, and it's he was able to lead our family through a lot of those scary times. So.
Thank you for that little pause there. I will add one more part of the military. So whenever I got back, I ended up as a company commander, as a first lieutenant, which typically that would have been a senior captain or a major position. That those were my peers, although I was not being paid that way. But and that was one of the other reasons why I ended up getting out. But as a company commander for a training unit like that, had an average strength of 500 plus soldiers at any given day. And, I had shared with you, Tucker, just my interest in investing in individuals, young men and stuff. And I would have never had the opportunity as a young man to be able to invest in so many different people, as a company commander, the reality of my life was really more of a social worker at that point. Basically the soldiers were turned over to the drill sergeant. It was basically, this was TRADOC, so they ended up doing their training. It was basically you finish your basic training and then you go off to school to get trained to do what your job is going to be in the military as an enlistee, and then you head off from there. So as a company commander for a training unit, basically these soldiers were coming to go to school. So the drill sergeant's interaction there, and soldiers can figure out a lot of ways to get in a lot of trouble really quick. So, with that size of company, most of my time was doing Uniform Code of Military Justice, having the soldier in front of me, having to listen to them. And, so I think I've heard every possible thing that, So, Austin brings up a funny one, but for those that don't know, those that are in the military, you are government property. So literally getting a sunburn, you've damaged up company property, government property.
Interesting.
So you can actually take away their pay for that, and
wow.
once again, you got to remember, we're breaking down individuals to become a single unit, so
getting rid of the self, right?
Yeah, I guess Doge would be proud that we helped reduce some income back then. But there's lots of other stories like that. But anyway, to bring it back on track, as far as investing in individuals, obviously there was a lot of young men that were troubled and needed help and stuff. So it just really gave me a heart for listening and helping young men. And I guess that's really where that was birthed out of, and then also being, having the responsibility for these individuals in these lives too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. No, thank you again for your service, Brian. I can't imagine what that was going through. I don't know if you know the guy Jocko. He was a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
I'm drinking his protein shake right now.
There you go.
I'm a big Jocko fan, but I his podcast is about, he'll interview people from the military, and he'll apply that to how you can use that in your own business and your own way of life.
Yes.
So even though I don't understand the military side, I learned a lot of lessons through him. on that. So thank you for sharing that, Brian. And
I would say, going back to your original question of how the military shapes Brian's professional and parenting career, I would say that it's been in a positive way. Brian has always structured, even with my siblings, that you're responsible for your actions, and the buck stops with you. But I am responsible for you, right? As the parent, I'm responsible for you. So if you are, if you're acting up out in public, if you're if you're not behaving at school, if you are, being, disrespectful to your coaches, or not being a good teammate whenever you're on teams, you treat us kind of like little soldiers, but also, I was responsible for my younger siblings, and my older sister is responsible for me, and then it's
a chain of command.
I love that. Yeah.
So, but also just, I'd say that, you're responsible for you are responsible for your own actions, but then also being willing to come alongside you and be like, well, no, I'm going to take it from here. I'm your commanding officer. Whenever it needs to be run up the flagpole, I'm going to step in. So,
that's a huge life lesson that if you can get that at a young age can be truly game changing. That's awesome.
As his, I don't know what your call sign. I don't know whether it was the ghost, which was
cool.
Harpened on that. He always knew. He always could sniff out that BS, right? You're lying. Brian didn't have to. As a new dad, I'm sitting here hearing all these stories of, tell your kid that their nails start turning white whenever they're lying to you, or that they'll get a red mark on their forehead if they're lying to you. So kids are covering their head, and they're like, "No, I didn't eat the cookie." My dad just like, "You can't lie to me. I know. I'm the ghost.
I'm the ghost."
Find out.
That's funny.
I love that. That's cool. Brian, I might need you to come teach my middle schoolers. I think the new generation needs to hear that lesson.
Yeah. Any sand piles that need to be moved?
Hey, I can make something happen, But Austin, I know you said earlier that you and your wife just had a kid in December, so congrats to that, and kind of just keep going what you were just saying. Like, what lessons have you learned from your dad that you've now carried over to being a new father? Like, Tucker and I are both married, but we do not have kids, so I would love to learn from you on that side.
Well, my wife and I made the decision that we're not going to find out the gender of our child until they were born.
Okay.
So we kept it a surprise, which is fairly rare these days. It's they can tell you the sex of your baby as early as like 3 or 4 weeks, like practically like the first doctor's office they're visit. They're like, "Hey, we can do this blood test and tell you what you're having." And it was interesting going through not knowing what it is, because as having 3 sisters, and then grew up next to the family that we grew up next to had 4 young boys, and just being able to I grew up very different than my sisters. I'll say it's just being homeschooled, and the amount of time that my mom would just be like, "Just go outside, Austin, and dig a hole." Like, just just hit a tree with a stick, and just just go do something and burn off this energy. It's recognizing that how are you going to raise a young man compared to a young woman, and not being able to be prepared until literally the doctors passing the baby right over to my wife right after he came out, and finding out that we had a son, and just kind of like the dichotomy of like, what's my future going to look like? Will I be a girl dad? Will I be a boy dad? Having a son just kind of, it's a feeling that you can't describe. It's or becoming a parent, because I'm sure I would have felt the same way if August had been a girl, but just.
I want to take a moment to tag in on this.
All the things that you want to teach your son as a man, you get all of a sudden validated of, okay, now you get to teach these things. You're going to be the one. You get to be an important male figure in this person's life, and you get to choose to be a positive or be involved in this person's life. And I feel very lucky to have a very positive male figure in my life. I'm excited to raise the next generation. It's very cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
What I was going to say when I was going to interrupt him was that as a parent, you sit there and you tell your child that you love them, and that they don't really understand, or they, in adolescence, they understand that love. Once they become a teenager and they grow off and they're off, they really have no clue of what love a parent has for a child, because they still think, they're upset because you're not allowing them to do something, but then it's a light switch. We saw it with my oldest daughter. They have two beautiful girls, and, Austin grabbing that son, it's like, I think there's a connection finally to say, because I watch him and his wife and how much they love that baby. And it's like, now do you understand how much we love you?
That's cool.
You just don't know it until you experience it. And then also it's just funny things that, you would never think that you sit there and celebrate a dirty diaper or somebody passing gas. You did it, buddy! It's really fun to, all those types of things, I was talking about just not having any clean clothes, but you just don't even care. It's just like, dude, he could throw up right on me and just be like, oh, whatever, dude,
you're part of me.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I can imagine with y'all's father-son relationship, like the fact that you have the business together as part of what you have. I'm sure that has made it to where you can even, take your relationship deeper than a lot of father-son relationships could go, just because of the amount of time you get to spend together doing something together. So I would love to kind of talk more about that and what that experience has been like for you. So, Brian, if you just want to talk about what it was like getting things started, kind of building this from the ground up. It was cool to hear you say that the business kind of flowed out of this season for you of self-reflection, self-discovery, and kind of, you were wrestling with, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but almost like your sense of purpose. Like, all right,
definitely.
What do I want to, do with my life? Like, why am I here on this earth? And so that's something that really strikes a chord with me and resonates with me. So yeah, kind of out of that self-discovery and you prioritizing a time to be able to do that, and you get this idea to start this business. Right. What was it like in those early stages, just clarifying what the vision was and getting things off the ground?
Like I'd mentioned, starting the business was easy from the perspective that I already had replaced my income, and didn't have a business license. So from that aspect, it was a pretty easy decision. The real question comes into once you start hiring people, the employee. That's a whole nother dimension, And, just like in the military where I had, at that case, I guess over the course of my time in the military, I had over 10,000 soldiers underneath me during that command. And, and I'm awfully thankful that it's not 10,000 employees that we've gone through over the 25 years.
Yeah.
So much smaller number, but at the same time, I can sit there and say that I've not done everything perfect. I would hope that the motive behind my heart was pure and as pure as one could be, and that in the decision-making process of growing a company from scratch, obviously the financial burdens that are there and the weight of having four kids at the same time, and balancing between how do I provide for my family, how do I provide for the company, how do I make sure that these risks are mitigated to the best possibility, and that the outcome is still good and favorable for everybody, and it's equitable. So all that being said, as individuals, the company, I'm where I'm at today because of the people that have served and worked at GTech Serve. One, I want to make sure I acknowledge that. There's individuals that I wish would have never left, that they'd still be a part of it. But there's individuals that have great stories and have come back to me and have thanked me for the opportunity that they had at GTech Serve, and they've gone on and just done some fabulous things. Matt Whitteman is a gentleman that comes to mind right off the bat. So he's just done phenomenally well, and very, very proud of him in that. Don't know if I'm hitting the heart of what your question was. So why don't you kind of redirect me again, and I'll make sure I get back on there. So
yeah, no, you're hitting on pieces of it for sure.
Okay.
I think starting a business for anybody who's thinking about it can be a really intimidating thing. It sounds like you kind of had pieces in place that helped make it a better transition for you maybe than other people who are just starting like completely from scratch, which is awesome. So maybe the better question would be, because the way you grew up, and then your time in the military and you running your own business, like you've had this work ethic in you almost, since you were in adolescence.
It's part of my, yes, that would be correct. That's my DNA.
So
and
maybe
there's a detriment part to that too, though.
Right. Yeah. There's always the temptation to go too far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So early on in the business, once again, still company commander, and this would be a reference that your non-military people may not know, but, the commander's out front in any run with the, you carry the guide on, and that's the flag for the company that represents it. So, it's like I've kind of ran the company with the motto, if you're not growing, you're going, and I still think that's a fair motto. And because in all aspects of life, you never want to become stagnant. You don't want to become stagnant in your personal relationships. You don't want to be stagnant in your business. You don't want to, there's just so many things that if you just stay flat and don't progress, you're gone. So, have tried to instill in the company and in employees that, your job is to work yourself out of a job, because there's we just keep moving up the food chain. If you're just a level 1 tech, you want to be the best level 1 tech. And as somebody else comes in, train that person. But you should be constantly sharing what you know and discovering new things to help the company grow. And having that military follow me not everybody buys into that. There's, and over the years I've had to learn, and it's no fault to the individual, but I would have made the mistake and made the assumption that everybody had that same, I want to use the word drive and motivation, but then that would say that they didn't have drive and motivation. So that would be an incorrect way of saying it. It's just not for everybody's personality. Some individuals, they'd rather, be instructed on what to do or just point them in the right direction, and they'll do a wonderful job.
Well, I'd say maybe some people recognize that work is not the end-all, be-all.
There you go. And that would be where the fault would come in. Well said. Well said.
A lot of people recognize that a lot of people don't start businesses even with their name, with their family name in the title, right? You started Goddard Technical Services. It's a representation of who you are. If you want something done with technology, you can call Brian, and that transitioned to onto me, and that some people, not everybody's going to want to do that, and I think it took you a while to recognize.
It did. It took me a good 10, 15 years to realize that as a business owner, and and it really, if you correlate that to my kids' age, it was when they were in those teen years and young adult years of realizing there's more to life, and I started this whole interview out with, hey, there's more to life than just work. And we're right back, hey, there's more to life in leading the company than work, and making sure I'm treating my employees in the same way.
We were talking earlier about how you weren't absent, but it was very much up until really, those 6 months before, whenever you quit the Todd organization, and took 6 months off to study and go get your business license. It was mom was the parent, and dad was the fun guy who would come in on the weekend, or was the disciplinarian who either you were good this
Mom
week.
let it stack up sometimes.
Yeah, mom let it stack up.
Dad's coming home.
It was scary. In the doghouse, or dad's coming home and he's we're going to be going to the movies, or we're going to be going to dinner or something like that. And whenever we started the business, there was a desire for me to spend time with you. So starting at being able to be working with you at a young age, and not that IT is the same as working a farm or something like that, but it was there was to go work with your dad, there was a great benefit there, and it's something that people don't do today, is going and working with family. A lot of people are told, don't start business with family, don't get involved, just keep family separate from business. And having a family business, it's each one of my sisters have spent the time, whenever the 2008 housing crisis happened, we three of my, Emmy was too young obviously to do anything, but my other three sisters, Rebecca has a great.
I've made it mandatory. I said, this summer you're not sitting on the lifeguard stand. You're all working for the company.
But Brian, he always instilled a work ethic for all of us, and I'd say I was a little bit more of your pet project. You were kind of maybe more so than the others, where
This is a great opportunity because getting right perspective at different ages. We think one thing in our mind, but when we start talking about things, we get to straighten history out to put it back on the right path.
So we're doing on
So-
For the Dogs podcast.
Let's go.
Yeah. So with that, I would sit there and say, the heart behind that, I mentioned that one summer I did. I said, okay, none of you all quit your jobs. You're working for the company. And that was a great bonding experience, I think, for all of us.
Sure, yeah. I got to see Jessica, who's a ER nurse. She could triage clients' issues super, super well. And we're like, you're on phones. You answer the phones. You can just understand what, the severity of these clients' issues.
Yeah.
Rebecca, she has a great
marketing
and great with very artistic, and she, at freaking, 13, 14 years old is redesigning the company's logo. I mean, even like
that's so cool.
Fit out here.
That's awesome.
She designed that.
These tool sets, it's like I knew where my kids were gifted at. I knew that not all of them were going to enjoy IT, but as Austin mentioned, Jessica's administrative skills. I think she was 17 years old. And she kicked butt from my operational manager that was there. He couldn't believe that this 17-year-old came in and just, was kicking butt as far as keeping things on schedule, on task. Austin came in on the, helping with the deployments and stuff and just getting it right the first time. Doing things, cabling and getting that stuff looking good.
I haven't had to do it in a couple of years, but I'm ambidextrous, so I can type two hands. So I would set up like 10 computers. This is back before there was like pixie booting and imaging and stuff like that, or we just didn't do things like that at the time. And so we'd get 10 computers in for a company and have to prep them, and I'd set them all up on the old power strip on the conference room table and a wheelie chair and two hands.
I could not do that.
No, me either.
And then I'll finish. I know I'm probably long.
No, you're good.
But then,
keep going.
You're good.
And then, Rebecca, I tell you, she's our artist, and she is just so gifted with that. And at the time, she wanted to use your traditional pen and stuff. And I just remember, I would start my day. I'd have a meeting with Rebecca for production to say, hey, look, we're wanting you to redo the website and blah, blah, blah. And it would take it was probably more of a 2-hour session to get to help her understand that I was the customer and that she needed to design towards my flair. And her job was to put that together. And I don't know hopefully one day she'll listen to this podcast, but what she does today is incredible. She's, I hope she can see that those rough days over that summer, I see her take that experience there, and I see what she does now, and she just does a phenomenal job. So Emily was not a part of that. She was too young. We refer to her as baby child, and so she grew up in a different era of the family.
She had different parents.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever watch Nate Bargatze, the stand-up comedian, but he has a whole bit talking about how like his younger sister just gets to do whatever she wants, and like his parents were completely different with her than they were with them. It's pretty funny. But hearing you describe that and like having all the older kids work for you for that summer, I'm just sitting here thinking like what kids that age get an opportunity to get experience like that and to get to try all these different things. I mean, that's such a rare thing for someone that age to be able to do that. So that's really cool. And I remember we watched the show Landman on Paramount, and there was this short clip where Jerry Jones is in it. And I don't know if he was telling a true story or not, but he pretty much was saying like he bought the Cowboys so that he could work with his kids for forever. Like yes, he loved football, and yes, he loved the team, but like he bought it so he could work with his kids because he wanted to spend more time with them. And it sounds similar kind of to what you're describing here, and I just think that's a really rare but very awesome opportunity that you guys had. I'm
going to make a comment in reference to that. as a father, I've always been very sensitive to, yes, I did. It was a mandatory work for a summer, but never, there's been encouragement. Hey, you have, all my kids are awesome. They all have wonderful skills. We would be a super company if all of them worked, for the company. I mean, they just bring different aspects.
There would also be a bit of an episode of Succession.
Yeah, but the different, and even their spouses. I sit down, I look, boy, if there was something that everybody was interested in, but they weren't. And in knowing that they, I wanted my kids to pursue their passion and what they enjoyed. And so one of the difficulties as a father, as Austin, got to age where he went off to college, and that he's doing well in college, and he's also still working for the company. And the girls had made it pretty clear that the IT was not their gallywag. They weren't going to do that, but Austin was still interested in it. And so he goes off to UNC Charlotte, and he spends, a year and a half there. And during that time, he's still working for the company, and I'm taking him, and he's having lunch with Michael Dell and I at a partner meeting, and he's in these other venues, and he's
here a presentation of Bill Clinton and Elon Musk back in 2014. Just traveling, going and doing these, going and doing these things, sitting in these rooms.
But you gotta understand though, I'm still the father thinking, grew up that you get the piece of paper, you need the 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sitting there thinking, darn it, he's more interested in the company than finishing school. And, we're at this conference, and he was the director of IBM. I forget his name. He just came over to Dell, and he was running Dell's partner program, and he was the keynote speaker. So after the speech, I introduced myself to him, and we ended up having lunch together, and Austin's at the table. And at this particular point, Austin's, he's saying, "Hey, Dad, I want to drop out of school. I want to do this full time." And I'm saying, "I'm going to fire you." So I go. I wish I could remember this gentleman's name.
His name's Frank.
His
last name.
So Frank, I forget his Dalio.
His last name's like almost 20 characters.
Yeah. So Frank.
It'd be a great password.
Yeah. I'm talking to Frank, and I'm saying, Frank, this is my son Austin. And, this is what we're doing. And, he's telling me he wants to drop out of school and just do this full time. Can you talk some sense into him? What do you think about that? So
at the time, this is what we were doing is we had just signed a contract with Dell where we were traveling around, me and Brian in an RV, literally driving around the Southeast. This is like their first, they're now
introducing cloud services.
This was brand new to the market. Brian was actually the first Microsoft partner to sell cloud services in a multi-hosted tenant.
Okay.
Wow.
Think of Azure, so they weren't.
We built our data center to Microsoft's Azure's thing, but Dell was paying for me and Brian to travel around in this massive RV that he bought from a race team, and we had an entire Dell data center in this RV that we would go out, we would set up in a business park, or we would go to the FBI field office, or we would go to these DoD contractors. Now Dell's doing that. We basically proved this model out. Dell's doing this now all over the country for specifically state and local government. They're going, they'll go down to the city of Charlotte and they'll have like a field day.
I want to pull this conversation back. So that's what he's involved in all of this. He's involved in all this, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, Frank,
going to the college professors and like, this is what the opportunity is. Can I have some type of credit for this?
So I go, Frank, set my son straight. He's not listening to me. Maybe you'll hear it from somebody else. And that's another big thing. As a parent, realize that you can say something, but until they hear it from somebody else, they've not heard it from you. So just die to that as a father.
Gotcha.
So so I'm sitting there and I go, okay, so tell him he should finish school. And he looks at Austin, he looks back at me, and he goes, "You know what my college grads are doing for me right now? They're building my PowerPoint slides. Look where your son is sitting." Opened my eyes.
And you guys haven't looked back since?
Well, I tried to fire him a couple of times. I don't ever want you coming back to me and saying that I made you do this. This is your choice. So since then, he has gone. He's got certificates from MIT, and is
Wow.
very proud of him. Austin has done just a phenomenal job. And as far as a father, having a son to work with, I wake up each morning. I treasure that.
Yeah, that's got to be really awesome.
I was always going to be working for him because from as little as I can remember, he used to charge me maintenance on his lawnmower every summer growing up. So there wasn't a choice. I was always going to work for this man one way or the other.
That's awesome.
But I never made him. It's his choice.
Yeah.
He can't come back and get me.
You tried to fire him.
Now I see the racket. You go, hey, you know what? If you want to use my lawnmower to mow the neighbor's yard, my commission is I get free lawn care.
That's awesome.
That's just teaching them good business.
Yeah,
that was not putting the shackle on him.
Yeah.
And by the way, he does have I don't know if you've been into his home, but he does have a picture that sometimes I wonder whether or not. Why don't you explain that picture you have in your foyer or your hallway?
So, me and my dad both enjoy watches, and whenever my wife is a very very special lady, but she and I both have we hate wasting money. I would say we would start when we were planning our wedding. We would go start doing the budget, and as soon as you go talk to somebody, and as soon as they find us for a wedding, they just tack on that wedding tax of it's 25-30% higher now because it's for a wedding. And we're just we were both in college at the time, or I just dropped out and was working for him, and we didn't have a lot of money for the wedding, and we're like, well, if we scrounged this all together, we could go do a European trip. So we ended up in Berlin for a week.
Oh, cool.
And we did 28 days through Europe, and then we came home and just had a backyard barbecue wedding at my parents' house.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And we ended up in Germany. And Germany, in Berlin particularly, is famous for their street art. There's just tons of graffiti. And there was this massive mural of this guy getting ready. He's straightening his tie. And he's got two gold Rolexes on. And he's got a gold chain going between them like handcuffs. And I don't know, I saw that art, and I saw the mural in it. I really, really liked it. And then we were walking the street, and there was a street photographer who had taken a picture of it and had it printed out and was selling prints of it. So I got a print of it, and it's just it's a good reminder to. It's not just about the business; it's about other things in life. What are these? Keep in mind that the good things in life can also be handcuffs.
That's pretty awesome.
I just hope that I wasn't the one that handcuffed him. When I look at that picture, I think, do you think I handcuffed him? Because I sure would hate to think that. Okay.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. But no, I love hearing this conversation from the two of you because y'all are unpacking y'all's story in front of us, and I'm getting a whole glimpse of the business and the relationship of a father and son. And so, Austin, if you can continue this, now that you're kind of taking the baton, and you said earlier that it's not normal for family to work together. So do you feel like there's more pressure on taking this baton and now building on this foundation that your father's already laid, or is it easier that way?
Man, that's a great question. So I think it's being able to see my parents enjoy life before health or, before age catches up to them, being able to not retire my parents. You know, 'cause I'd say Brian's semi-retired. Brian still offers 4 to 5 days a month. You know, there's a book called 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah. Any entrepreneur, whenever you first start out, you need to read the 4-Hour Work Week and set that as your objective in the future. I've achieved that.
Writing that down.
Yeah, 4-Hour Work Week. I'm not sure who the author is, but it's a short read. But being able to see my father achieve that and my mother achieve that to where they are able to pursue their passion and not that, you know, they're able to put their efforts into helping other people in, not that I'm able to take credit for it, but knowing that, when Brian was able to go volunteer at the women's shelter and, or the Roatan Club or the other charities that they've been involved with. They are involved with a hospice care here, a hospice house here in Iredell County, where families who are individuals who don't have anywhere else to go at the end of their life, that they're able to go get palliative care, and being able to go and invest in other people's lives like that, and not that or that I'm a small part of that because I'm able to give them the freedom to go pursue those other passions, as well as being able to, whenever the hurricane hit here in North Carolina, being able for them to be able to, my sister lives up in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, for them to be able to just drop whatever they were doing and go get the grandbabies and bring them down here and take care of them and host them here, and that they're able to, whenever seasonal affective disorder hits, that they're able to pack up and head out west and follow the sun, and not have those responsibilities of having to day in, day out. It's a point of pride for me to be able to say that I've semi-retired my parents. They have a very good life. They have a life that I would be envious of one day, or would hope to achieve one day, and give me and my wife something to shoot for. It's very encouraging, and I have to also remind myself sometimes that you're only 32, 30. Oh, geez,
Yeah.
33.
He's now at the age at which I started the company.
Oh, wow.
And he's 15 years in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
15 years. That I've got 15 years under my belt already. The last 5 years of that, I'd say, really being in a senior leadership position.
Yeah.
And the next chapters, the world's constantly changing. Brian, the direction that I've taken the company, Brian doesn't want anything to do with it, but he still offers a tremendous amount of value just from relationships and being able to have that that person to come back to and ask for guidance on. But I don't think Brian wants to sift through system logs now and do the span.
My mental bandwidth to do that nowadays, it's like, no, I'd rather hold my grandchildren. Yeah.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
So,
yeah.
Real quick, Brian, if you don't mind, awesome. That's awesome that you view you taking over the company that way, and just, acknowledging what your parents get to do and you being able to appreciate that, look up to it. But I am curious, Brian, a lot of men, particularly, I feel like, struggle with retirement and kind of going, you spend most of your life working and trying to achieve something and building something, and you have goals, you have things you're working towards, you have a sense of purpose. So, like, for you, what has it been like to transition into this season where maybe you're not what most people would view as like completely retired, like you're still doing some stuff, but you're, for all intents and purposes, you're in a retirement season of life. So what does that look like for you so far? Have there been any challenges, or has it gone really well?
The transition has been long, so it's been over a 5-year transition. I have to thank my wife for that. And the beauty of marriage is whenever, you truly find an opposite, that's whenever you continue to have that growth. If you were both the same, it would be a problem. So where my strengths are would be my wife's weaknesses, and where her strengths are would be mine. So, and I say this in a very positive way, she has taught me or has challenged me to learn what we refer to as the art of puttering. And, and what that is being, finding contentment in doing nothing.
Yeah.
So,
or in other words,
I guess,
maybe resting.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I discovered, and it took a while it probably took 3 years out of these, if I go back, we'll just say 5 years back, I started that process. Now, what helped me through that was that, I had already relinquished control of certain aspects of the company. And, the home that we have, our previous home was next door. We just finished building the home that we're in now. But I bought a tractor and I started working outside. So that was my puttering. And I just found contentment in
digging holes. Go outside and hit a tree with a stick.
So now I'm the one digging the holes.
Yeah.
So doing that manual yard work and getting away from the desk, and that really helped me begin this transition and to find contentment in that. But it wasn't, hey, you're retired, boom. And I still don't consider myself retired, nor do I consider myself to ever be retired. I don't want to, it goes back to that. If you're not growing, you're going, I still want to make changes in my life and as me and an individual. And, I get to concentrate on different aspects of that now, opposed to being a young husband, a young father, and the responsibilities of those, and getting your children through school and marriages and all of that. Those burdens are gone. And, it's been a time to really now kind of reflect on who am I, and through that puttering and having that time, has helped me understand who I am and why. I think one of my children, she said it best, she said, my life growing up as a young boy and just the circumstances that I grew up in, it was chaotic. It was chaos. 5 kids, a single mother. It was crisis after crisis. And, so I do well in crisis. I fire on all cylinders. I can just make stuff happen. When things get calm, I get nervous. Gotta be careful here too, because as you unpack that, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get unpacked as you learn to slow down.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just want to jump in and share a quick quote that piggybacks perfectly off of that. I think it's Dallas Willard. He once said that hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life. And most of what we're trying to do as we grow as men is learning how to slow down so that we can be the men that we were created to be. Because it's so easy to think we just got to keep going. We got to keep grinding. We got to keep, and it sounds like a lot of that is what you're describing. And for you, it's, grounded in your childhood and your experience. But the hard thing for us to do as men is to learn how to slow down and actually be with our own thoughts and ask the questions of who am I? And what am I supposed to do with my time? What am I supposed to do with my life? And too often, especially in today's world, we don't allow ourselves the headspace or the time to be able to ask those questions or to experience rest. And so we're just constantly, caffeine all the time and just like stimuli left and right. And that is like such a cool thing that you've been able to recognize that and be able to work towards slowing down. I think that's huge.
What's also exciting about that, I'm 58 years old right now. So, 50, 52 really, and I really think I began that process at probably at age 50 as far as that, so I might be off on my 5-year thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but, one of the objectives as a father is to sit there and say, okay, how do you sit there and continue to participate in life and be able to share these stories with your children so that you see their success? Now, magnitudes of, is it 2 years? Are they 2 years ahead of us? Are they 5 years ahead of us? And the unique, what I consider to be unique with the relationship that my wife and I have with our children, are that they're all open to discussion, and we're all open to reevaluating. You take a memory as a kid, and you can only see that memory gets burnt into your brain at that age. And at that age, you don't know all the other circumstances of life that are going on for you to really tuck that thought and memory away to put it into proper perspective. So we're in a season of life now where, our relationships with our grown children now are, these opportunities of, I think I did a better job than, I didn't have a father in my life at all. But I was blessed to have wonderful coaches, other men in my life. There was a movement as a young man called Promise Keepers that you may all have heard about that was going through, my participation in the local church and leadership roles that I've had there. And, so I've had so many individuals invest in me and help hold me accountable. And
hold you accountable to what? Hold you accountable to
being a good father. Hold me accountable to if it wasn't for my small men's group and meeting with these gentlemen every Wednesday, I in the morning for breakfast, it was those relationships, those things there that helped keep me a course. And that's missing today for so many people. So, there's just not the investment in individuals or,
think about all the young people who have remote work jobs and, aren't even going out to the office. I mean, there's so many people who just, whole generation of people who don't get that in any way, shape, or form, whether it be, they have virtual coaching.
Right. But to kind of go back to finish this one thought, though, is that coming back and having those conversations with your children now as adults, and I would have, I was shocked at some points for offenses that my kids may have had against me, and I had no idea that impacted them in a certain way.
Welcome to Parenthood.
And but having that opportunity to come back and listening to your young adult or I don't want to say child because my kids aren't children anymore. They're but to have those conversations and to hear their interpretation of that memory laid down early, or if you think of your high school or your teenage years, a lot of people leave home and they think of their parents as an oppressive person, or they didn't let me do that or that. And at that point, as a young 18-year-old, you think you've got the world is your oyster. You can go off and do whatever. And yet parents are still involved in suppressing and whatnot. But to be able to come back and dig through those things and understand where I hurt my kids, being able to have conversations and then being willing to listen to say, well, I want to hear how your interpretation was. Now let me explain what was going on also. And then it's not that either one of us were right in the beginning of these conversations, but whenever you hear both stories, you get to fuse those together and you come up with something where what really was reality, the true reality, becomes much clearer. And I think the beauty of my kids being able
with no map and word.
Yeah, I was clueless. I didn't have a guide on how to be a father. I mean, I didn't have a father in my life. You know, I had some great examples, but not a father here. So, but I guess if I were to say what would be the fillet of fatherhood, is having such awesome kids that they continue to want to grow too. And they don't see Regina and I from a teenage perspective. They're willing to reevaluate. And in doing so, what we see as parents is that, wow, they are so much further ahead than we are. Emotionally, you know, they're dealing with things that we had to start dealing with later in life, you know, about unpacking things from our childhood. We didn't have time to think about that. But, you know, it's been fun continuing to grow. I guess you never stop growing as a parent. I hope as an individual, we never stop growing. And communication is so important.
Well, as good of a example that I had is in you, I have to recognize that, you know, there's no perfect childhood, there's no perfect, for as much as I want to protect and provide August the world.
To Austin's point, he's heard me say this over and over again. So I got to be careful how I frame it. So I'm going to use a different word instead. But here's the reality, guys. No matter, you know, you sit there and you look at your own situation, you say, hey, I'm going to do it different for the next generation. I'm going to raise them different. And you do it differently. And you sit there and you think, man, I did it so much better than what I had. We always make that comparison thing. And then it comes back and there's certain things that you did that, you know, it's like, oh, you messed me up. So no matter what, as a parent, you're going to F up your kids in some way. There's no way around it, you know, but it's a progression, you know, it's like, okay, this is how bad you were messed up initially. And then, you know, well, although you made major strides from what you grew up with, the environment changes, the different social pressures of the kid changes, but you may think you're doing it all right and you fixed everything in your childhood, but your kids are going to be effed up in some way or another, and it just continues to go. So don't be discouraged with that.
I think it's also, and they just want to live in their own little echo chamber, and that there's people that are actually advocating to like cut off your family members that, you know, didn't vote the way that you thought that they should vote. And it's just that, you know, that's not healthy for anybody. And, you know, obviously if there's a toxic person, you have to take that into account and decide whether or not you're going to, you know, put boundaries up. I'm not saying don't have boundaries and accept everybody, but there's a relationship is bigger than your disagreements on almost anything. And,
I was reading a book about, what it was called How God Changes Your Brain. And it was talking about, here's like 8 things you can do to contribute to like long-term brain health. And in that list of 8 things, one of the things was, be in relational settings with people and like have relationships, but not just like any relationship. Have relationships where you can have conversations where there is a disagreement or where you don't see eye to eye and you're trying to see one another's perspectives. that's one of the key contributors to long-term brain health, which I think is fascinating. And I think God wired our brains to work that way for a reason, because we actually are like sharpened in that kind of navigating, okay, we don't see eye to eye, but how do we still love each other anyways? And that's part of how God forms and shapes us to be more like Jesus. But, you know, in what you guys were just saying, you talked so much about the impact of mentorship for you, Brian, and just guys in your life who had, you know, an impact on you. And Austin, you mentioned, you know, just the importance of just having people in your life and being socially involved and in relationships, and kind of fighting just the loneliness epidemic that we see in today's world. And, you know, I remember talking to you guys at the Christmas party, and both of you mentioned that that's a, you know, a passion, is just, you know, mentoring young guys and just helping them kind of navigate through life. So for both of you, I'd love to hear just kind of what that's looked like in your life. Why is that such a passion for you? And, you know, if you could just elaborate on why that's such a need in today's world.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing is to be, the phone works for both ways. Yes, you can feel like you can make it. You also have to make an effort, you know, that you have to let people know that you can have those real conversations with you. You're not going to feel judged by me or judged by, I'm not going to cut you out because we disagree about something, you know, even as big as, you know, politics or religion or you know, family and stuff like that. And just, you know, being willing to have intellectual conversations with people, I think is a big thing. Like you said, exercise your brain, allow yourself to take in other worldviews and hold them up against your own. And to what Brian was saying earlier is, you know, being willing to evaluate and change, or maybe as you grow through different periods of your life, being willing to take on their other people's perspective, right? That I can sit there and say that, you know, I would have wished that you were as involved as, you know, people maybe my generation are with their kids growing up and not working as much as in my younger years, but at the same time, like recognizing that you're starting a business, you're taking the family, you know, you and your brother joke around that, you know, you took your family off the dirt road and got us onto a paved road, and now it's
I got us out of the ditch. It's his responsibility to take us to Valhalla.
You know, if things were different, things would be different, and that's okay because I'm happy with where I am today.
Right.
And if I'm happy with who I am today, why am I, you know, why would I wish for anything different in the past, right? And, you know, being able to, kind of centering on that with friends and people in your, you know, in your social life, that you're not going to, that you have to be intentional to build deep relationships with people. Things don't just happen. You gotta take it on yourself and be willing to put yourself out there. And it's not easy. It's not.
I guess I'm going to key in on that main thing. I mean, basically what I hear you say, Austin, is you got to make yourself vulnerable.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And today, it's, you know, people hide behind the social media platforms. You know, they can pretend to be somebody that they're not.
People are intimidated that they're going to, that somebody would be willing to just drop them if they don't agree.
Didn't have the political views or whatever, yeah.
They don't, you know, they don't have the spiritual view, or they don't have the right view on world events or something like that, right? And that people aren't willing to speak their mind, and you're not gonna, you got to be, surround yourself with people that you feel so you can speak honestly and speak truthfully to. So, that's what I'd say.
For me at this point, I kind of shared a lot of different areas where I've had the opportunity of doing that. I still have, I take not as much of an opportunity trying to pass that mantle to Austin as far as with our current staff that we still have within the company. But for years, that was a primary source of where I would invest in individuals. And then as I was going through the process of learning to putter and to slow down. We had purchased a property next door to us that we began to Airbnb. And through Airbnb, not to be imposing on anybody, our guest, but it provided me an opportunity because I would also rent a boat for them. And that gave me the opportunity at least to introduce myself. And that ended up becoming another outlet for me to be able to just meet people if they wanted me to, it was a fun way. It is a fun way to interact with other individuals and to just invest in them, even if it's just for that short stay that they're staying. And, so as far as where that void or, how do I get that opportunity to share or to spend time with others? It's, we do that through meeting new people from an Airbnb, which may sound crazy, but for some reason they like me and they say, hey, we'll do that bourbon tasting with you. Oh yeah, we'll take us out on the boat. Let's go.
I would do that.
Yeah.
So I got, those I'll say friend magnets, but these were purchases in order to bring my kids back home. Hey, Dad still has toys. Come play. And they don't come back as often as I'd like. I have the time to play. So that void or gap is filled by guests that come by.
That's pretty awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, y'all definitely, both of y'all have a passion for people, and it's very obvious in your stories and just the way you're talking to each other. So thank y'all for coming on this podcast. The one thing I love about this podcast is Austin and Brian, I did not know you before, but I feel like now I know so much, and I hope to soon get to hang out with you, with y'all in person, and just thank y'all for the passion that y'all have for people and for just the relationship that you have as a father and son. It's just very encouraging to watch. So thank y'all so much.
Oh, well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing here.
Let me make an offer. I had mentioned this to Tucker at the Christmas party. So let me extend an invitation. We'll book some time here at the Airbnb. You two and, have, maybe.
Yeah, about the three other.
Have three others. Now, if you want a larger gathering, but we can accommodate that too. Reach out to me. We'll have
For Your Dawgs retreat.
Yeah, we'll give you all a little retreat, and in that retreat, what I'll give you, we'll do a little bourbon tasting. We got to smoke some meat, so we'll do a little barbecue. If you come, each one will be required to do a cold plunge.
Oh,
nice.
We'll do a sound bath and sit in the sauna and get the really.
How about that?
We will have the opportunity to meet you all, and learn a little bit more about each one of you.
That's a generous offer. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That is awesome. So, listeners, if you're not in our Discord group, you need to get in it because we will have details to come on that generous offer from Brian, which I'll just say, both of you guys, the times I've hung around you, you both are just incredibly generous people. And so I've been a recipient of that. So I just want to say thank you. And even tonight, you're generous with your time to come on and to be vulnerable, to be honest, to share about your experiences. And so we appreciate that so much. And you brought the bourbon, you got the bikes in the background. I mean, it's just like perfect,
Full
set up for what
Yeah.
we're trying to do here. So thank you guys so much. We'll definitely be in touch about getting together sometime for a little For My Dawgs retreat.
There we go.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much. For all our listeners out there, be like Brian and Austin. Go be a dog today.
And be like Brian and Austin and go be there for your dogs.
Thanks, guys.